1. We're taking a look at a 1984 Buick Regal that's currently up for sale. The seller is asking $2,800 for this classic sedan. Now, let's dive into the details. According to the seller's description, this Buick Regal Limited has been driven for 80,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. It comes equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive. The exterior is a classic brown color, but the seller didn't mention the specific shade of the interior. It's important to note that the seller has been upfront about the condition of the car. They haven't mentioned any major issues or damages, which is a good sign. In fact, they've highlighted that the car has 4 new tires and that there are no engine oil leaks, suggesting that it has been well maintained. However, it's always a good idea to inspect the car in person and take it for a test drive before making a purchase. While the seller seems sincere in their description, it's still possible that there are some issues they haven't mentioned. One thing to keep in mind is that this is a 1984 model, so it may not have all the modern features and amenities that we're used to in newer cars. But if you're looking for a classic car with a bit of character, this Buick Regal could be a great choice. Overall, if you're in the market for a vintage sedan and have a budget of around $2,800, this 1984 Buick Regal Limited could be worth checking out. Just be sure to do your due diligence and thoroughly inspect the car before making a final decision. 2. We're going to take a closer look at a 1977 Ford Maverick that's currently up for sale. The seller has set the price at $5,800, so let's see what this classic car has to offer. From the information provided by the seller, we can see that this Ford Maverick has been driven for 130,000 miles. While this may seem like a lot, it's important to keep in mind that this is a 1977 model, so the mileage is relatively reasonable for its age. The car features an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive, especially for those who prefer not to use a manual gearbox. The exterior of the car is finished in an eye-catching orange color, while the interior is a subtle beige. The seller hasn't provided any photos of the interior, so it's hard to gauge its condition. However, given the age of the car, it's likely that there may be some wear and tear on the inside. Now let's talk about the seller's description. They mention that they have owned the car for 4 years and that it runs well. This is a good sign, as it suggests that the car has been in their possession for a while and that they have been able to maintain it in running condition. However, the seller also states that they need money for a newer vehicle, which could be a red flag. It's possible that they are trying to sell the car quickly and may not be entirely forthcoming about any issues it may have. As with any used car purchase, it's crucial to exercise caution and do your due diligence before making a decision. If you're interested in this 1977 Ford Maverick, be sure to inspect it thoroughly in person and take it for a test drive. Pay attention to any unusual noises, vibrations, or handling issues that may indicate underlying problems. In summary, this 1977 Ford Maverick could be a great option for someone looking for a classic car with a bit of character. However, given the seller's reason for selling and the lack of detailed information about the car's condition, it's important to approach this purchase with a critical eye. If you do decide to go ahead with it, be prepared to potentially invest some time and money into repairs and maintenance to keep this vintage beauty on the road. 3. We've got a real treat for you, a stunning 1963 Mercury Comet that's up for grabs at just $7,500. So let's dive in and see what makes this classic beauty so special. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the gorgeous turquoise color of this Comet? It's a real head-turner, and the fact that both the exterior and interior share this vibrant hue makes it even more impressive. This car is sure to stand out from the crowd wherever it goes. Now, let's talk about the specs. The seller mentions that this Comet has been driven for 71,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's nearly 60 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive, and it runs on good old-fashioned gasoline. But here's where things get really interesting. The seller has provided a detailed description of the car's condition, and it's clear that they've put a lot of love and care into this vehicle. They mention that the air conditioning and heating systems work perfectly, which is a huge plus for a classic car. They've also recently replaced the oil, battery, and even added some sweet white wall tires and air shocks in the back. Of course, no car is perfect, and the seller does mention a couple of minor cosmetic hiccups. But overall, it seems that this Mercury Comet is in excellent condition. The seller even emphasizes that it has no significant damage or problems, and that it comes with a clean title. One thing to note is that the seller is asking for serious buyers only. They're clearly passionate about this car and want to make sure it goes to a good home. So, if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's been well maintained and has plenty of character, this 1963 Mercury Comet could be the perfect fit. As always, we recommend thoroughly inspecting the car in person and taking it for a test drive before making any final decisions. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this Comet seems like a solid investment for any classic car enthusiast. So, there you have it, folks. A beautiful 1963 Mercury Comet with a clean title, low mileage, and a whole lot of charm. If you're interested, be sure to message the seller for more details. 4. We've got a real gem to share with you, a 1980 Chevrolet El Camino that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. The seller has listed this beauty for $15,000, so let's take a closer look and see what makes it so special. First off, let's talk about the basics. This El Camino has been driven for just 10,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a vehicle that's over 40 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive, and it's powered by a fuel type that the seller hasn't specified. But don't let that deter you. Based on the seller's description, this El Camino is a true powerhouse. The exterior of the car is a sleek black, and the interior matches with a black color scheme as well. It's a classic look that never goes out of style, and it's sure to make a statement wherever you go. Now let's dive into the juicy details. The seller mentions that this El Camino is an SS model, which stands for Super Sport. It's got a 350 motor that's been built to perfection, with 54 passes on the motor. That means this thing is ready to roar down the road at a moment's notice. But that's not all. The seller has also equipped this El Camino with a quick performance 9-inch Ford rear end, complete with 513 gears. And if that wasn't enough, it's got a BTE 5000 stall converter, which is a high-performance torque converter that's designed to maximize your acceleration and overall performance. It's clear that the seller has put a lot of time, effort, and money into making this El Camino a true beast on the road. And the best part? It comes with a clean title and has no significant damage or problems, according to the seller. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and take it for a test drive before making a final decision. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this 1980 Chevrolet El Camino SS seems like a dream come true for any car enthusiast who loves classic American muscle. One thing to note is that this El Camino has only had one owner, which is a testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. And with only 10,000 miles on the odometer, it's got plenty of life left in it. So if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's been souped up to perfection, this 1980 Chevrolet El Camino SS might just be the one for you. With its sleek black exterior, powerful 350 motor, and high-performance upgrades, it's sure to turn heads and leave other drivers in the dust. 5. We're taking a closer look at a 1984 Chevrolet Camaro that's currently up for sale. The seller has set the price at $5,500, so let's dive in and see what this classic muscle car has to offer. First things first, it's important to note that this Camaro has been around the block a few times. According to the seller, it's been driven for a whopping 254,244 miles. That's a lot of miles, and it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. The car comes equipped with an automatic transmission, which is a plus for those who prefer not to deal with a manual gearbox. The exterior is finished in a classic white color, while the interior is a sleek black. It's a timeless color combination that never goes out of style. Now let's talk about the seller's description. They mention that the car has been almost completely redone and that they've invested about $10,000 into it. This suggests that the car has undergone some significant repairs and upgrades, which could be a good sign for potential buyers. However, the seller also admits that there are still a few issues left to work out. They don't go into specifics, so it's hard to say exactly what these issues might be. It could be anything from minor cosmetic flaws to more serious mechanical problems. Despite these potential issues, the seller claims that the car runs and drives well. This is definitely a positive, as it suggests that the car is in good enough condition to be driven on a regular basis. It's worth noting that this Camaro has had 3 or more owners over the years. This isn't necessarily a red flag, but it does suggest that the car has changed hands a few times, which could be a sign of underlying issues or a lack of consistent maintenance. Overall, this 1984 Chevrolet Camaro seems like a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, it's a classic muscle car with a lot of potential. The fact that the seller has invested a significant amount of money into it is definitely a plus, and the car's ability to run and drive well is encouraging. On the other hand, the high mileage and potential issues left to work out are definitely cause for concern. If you're seriously considering making an offer on this car, it's important to do your due diligence and have it thoroughly inspected by a qualified mechanic. 6. We've got a real treat for you. A stunning 1974 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray that's sure to make your heart race. The seller has listed this beauty for $15,000, so let's take a closer look and see what makes it so special. First off, can we just take a moment to appreciate the gorgeous red exterior of this Corvette? It's a classic color that never goes out of style, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The black interior is equally impressive, creating a sleek and sophisticated look that perfectly complements the exterior. Now let's talk about the specs. According to the seller, this Corvette has been driven for just 8,031 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's almost 50 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive, and it runs on good old-fashioned gasoline. But here's where things get really interesting. The seller has provided a detailed description of the car's condition and the work that's been done to it. They mention that the 350 engine has been rebuilt and bored out by the previous owner, and that they've only put a few hundred miles on it since then. That's a great sign, as it suggests that the engine is in excellent condition and ready to roar. The seller also notes that the tires have less than 1,000 miles on them, which is another plus. And if you're a fan of T-tops, you'll be happy to know that they work perfectly and don't leak. But the real impressive part is the list of new components that have been added to this Corvette. The seller mentions that the entire brake system has been replaced, including every component. They've also added a new Edelbrock manifold, carburetor and air cleaner, as well as new spark plugs and wires. The list goes on, with new tie rods, knuckles, ball joints, engine wiring harness, window motors and regulators, weather stripping, wiper motor and wipers, rear wheel hub assembly, power steering pump, differential bushings, and more. It's clear that the seller has put a lot of time, effort, and money into making sure this Corvette is in top condition. They even mention that all the fluids have been replaced, and that the car comes with a new battery, door locks, keys, and mirrors. Of course, no car is perfect, and the seller does mention that the clock doesn't work and that there are some minimal missing components in the interior. However, they also note that there's no major damage and that the wear is normal for a 50-year-old car. One unique feature of this Corvette is the audio system, which includes 2 10-inch subwoofers, speakers, an amp, and a stereo. These were installed by the previous owner, so it's unclear how well they work or how they've been integrated into the car. Overall, this 1974 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray seems like an excellent investment for any classic car enthusiast. With its low mileage, rebuilt engine, and long list of new components, it's clear that the seller has put a lot of love and care into this vehicle. And with a clean title and no significant damage or problems, it's ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. 7. We've got a real treat for you. A charming 1959 Nash Metropolitan convertible that's sure to put a smile on your face. The seller has listed this unique classic for $12,000, so let's dive in and see what makes it so special. First off, let's talk about the exterior. This Metropolitan is finished in a lovely turquoise color that's sure to stand out from the crowd. It's a classic 1950s hue that perfectly captures the era in which this car was built. And if you look closely, you'll notice a unique feature on the hood. A flying lady ornament that adds a touch of elegance to this already charming vehicle. Now, let's move on to the interior. The seller has opted for a custom upholstery job in white, which perfectly complements the turquoise exterior. It's a classic color combination that never goes out of style. And if you're someone who loves to drive with the top down, you'll appreciate the included convertible boot cover, which helps to keep the interior looking neat and tidy when the top is lowered. Under the hood, this Metropolitan is powered by a petrol engine, which is mated to a manual transmission. It's a classic setup that's sure to appeal to those who enjoy a more engaging driving experience. And with just 42,498 miles on the odometer, this car still has plenty of life left in it. Of course, no car is perfect, and the seller does mention one known issue. There's some play in the steering. However, they also note that the car is still drivable, so it's not a deal breaker by any means. It's just something to keep in mind if you're considering making an offer. One of the great things about this Metropolitan is that it comes with many additional parts, as well as a car cover to help keep it protected when not in use. This is a real plus, as it means you'll have some extra bits and pieces on hand in case anything needs to be replaced down the line. The seller also notes that this Metropolitan is not a trailer queen, but rather a daily driver. This is great news for anyone who wants a classic car that they can actually enjoy on a regular basis, rather than just admiring it from afar. Overall, this 1959 Nash Metropolitan convertible seems like a real gem. With its charming exterior, custom interior, and included extras, it's sure to appeal to anyone who appreciates classic cars with a bit of personality. And with a clean title and no significant damage or problems, it's ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever it goes. 8. We're taking a look at a 1962 Cadillac DeVille that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller is asking $7,000 for this classic ride, which comes with a clean Florida title. Under the hood, you'll find a 3i90 engine that's been fitted with a new carburetor and an electric fuel pump. The seller mentions that the engine does run, but it's important to note that this DeVille is still a project car. As for the exterior, the car is finished in an eye-catching pink color, but it will need a new paint job to really shine. There are also some rust spots present, which is something to keep in mind if you're considering taking on this project. The interior color isn't specified in the listing, but based on the age of the vehicle, it's likely to need some attention as well. One thing to note is that the seller's description doesn't mention anything about the car being in poor condition, so it seems like they're being upfront about the state of the vehicle. The price is listed as firm at $7,000, and the car is located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you're not local to the area, the seller does mention that the car can be shipped to your door for an additional fee. Overall, this 1962 Cadillac DeVille seems like a solid project car for someone who's willing to put in the work to restore it to its former glory. While it may not be in perfect condition, it's got a lot of potential for the right buyer. 9. We're checking out a 1980 Chevrolet Camaro that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. This classic muscle car is being offered for $12,900, and it comes with a clean Florida title in hand. One of the standout features of this Camaro is its low mileage, with just 36,600 miles on the odometer. That's pretty impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. The exterior is finished in a bold orange color, while the interior boasts black leather seats. Under the hood, you'll find a gasoline engine that's paired with a standard shift transmission. However, the seller does mention that the transmission makes some sounds when driving, so it may need some servicing. The interior of the car is said to be clean, and the seller has even installed new speakers in the rear trunk. The tires and rims are also reported to be in good shape. Now let's talk about some of the things that may need attention. The seller notes that the air conditioning doesn't work and will need a new compressor. There's also some rust present under the doors, which is something to keep in mind. It's important to note that while the seller's description doesn't explicitly say the car is in poor condition, there are a few issues mentioned that potential buyers should be aware of. The transmission sounds and the rust under the doors are things that may need to be addressed. Overall, this 1980 Chevrolet Camaro seems like a solid classic car for someone who's willing to put in a little work to get it into top shape. With its low mileage and clean title, it could be a great addition to any muscle car collection. Just be sure to factor in the potential repairs and servicing that may be needed. 10. We're taking a closer look at a 1966 Ford Mustang that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic pony car for $7,500, which could be a great deal for the right buyer. According to the seller, this Mustang has been driven just 44,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. It's powered by a rebuilt 289 engine that's been fitted with a cam, and it's paired with a rebuilt automatic transmission. One of the standout features of this Mustang is its factory air conditioning, which is a rare find on a car from this era. The exterior is finished in a classic white color, while the interior boasts a red color scheme. Now, it's important to note that the seller's description is quite brief, and it doesn't provide a lot of details about the overall condition of the car. While the rebuilt engine and transmission are definitely positives, there's no mention of any potential issues or areas that may need attention. Without more information or photos, it's difficult to say for certain whether this Mustang is in excellent, good, or poor condition. As with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and get a thorough understanding of its condition before making a decision. That being said, if this 1966 Ford Mustang is as described and in solid overall condition, it could be a great opportunity for someone looking to own a piece of American muscle car history. The rebuilt engine and transmission, along with the factory air conditioning, are definitely appealing features. 11. We're taking a look at a 1976 Cadillac Eldorado that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic luxury car for $8,500, which could be a fair price depending on its condition. According to the seller, this Eldorado has been driven 97,000 miles, which is not too high for a car of this age. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a common feature on Cadillacs from this era. The exterior of the car is finished in a blue color, but unfortunately, the seller hasn't provided any information about the interior color. This is something to keep in mind if you're considering this car, as the interior condition can be just as important as the exterior. Now, here's where things get a bit tricky. The seller's description is extremely brief, and it doesn't provide any details about the overall condition of the car. There's no mention of any recent repairs, upgrades, or potential issues that buyers should be aware of. Without more information, it's impossible to say whether this Eldorado is in good, fair, or poor condition. It's possible that the car runs and drives well, but it's also possible that it needs significant work to be roadworthy. As with any classic car purchase, it's crucial to do your due diligence before making a decision. If you're seriously interested in this 1976 Cadillac Eldorado, I would strongly recommend reaching out to the seller and asking for more details about the car's condition. Ask for additional photos, service records, and any other information that can help you make an informed decision. If the seller is unable or unwilling to provide more details, that could be a red flag. It's always better to have too much information than not enough when it comes to buying a classic car. In summary, this 1976 Cadillac Eldorado could be a great project car or a solid cruiser, but it's impossible to say for sure without more information from the seller. If you're willing to take a chance and do some extra research, it might be worth pursuing. But if you're looking for a turnkey classic that's ready to hit the road, you might want to keep looking. 12. We're taking a closer look at a 1985 Pontiac Catalina that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller, Kevin Hernandez, has listed this classic car for $5,500, which could be a great deal for someone looking for a solid cruiser. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Catalina is equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a common feature on cars from this era. The exterior is finished in a blue color, and the interior is also blue, which could make for a nice, cohesive look. Under the hood, you'll find a gasoline engine, which is said to have received a full tune-up. The seller also mentions that the carburetor has been replaced, which is a good sign that the engine has been well maintained. One of the standout features of this Catalina is its recent brake system overhaul. According to the seller, the entire brake system has been redone, including new calipers and brake lines. This is a major plus, as a well-functioning brake system is crucial for any classic car. The seller also notes that the gas tank has been replaced, along with a brand new fuel pump. This is another good indication that the car has been properly cared for and maintained. In terms of ownership, the seller mentions that this Catalina has had just one owner, which is always a good sign. The car also comes with a clean title and is fully paid off, which means there shouldn't be any outstanding liens or issues with ownership. Now, it's important to note that while the seller's description is fairly detailed, it doesn't explicitly state the overall condition of the car. There's no mention of any significant damage or problems, but there's also no indication of whether the car is in excellent, good, or fair condition. As with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and get a thorough understanding of its condition before making a decision. If you're seriously interested in this 1985 Pontiac Catalina, I would recommend reaching out to the seller directly and asking any additional questions you may have. Overall, based on the information provided, this Catalina seems like it could be a solid choice for someone looking for a classic cruiser with some recent upgrades and maintenance. The price of $5,500 seems reasonable, especially considering the work that's been done to the brakes, fuel system, and engine. 13. We're taking a look at a 1972 Chevrolet Impala that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic sedan for $6,000, which could be a fair price depending on its condition. According to the seller, this Impala has been driven just 70,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a common feature on cars from this era. The exterior of the car is finished in a gray color, but unfortunately, the seller hasn't provided any information about the interior color. This is something to keep in mind if you're considering this car, as the interior condition can be just as important as the exterior. Now, let's dive into the seller's description. They mention that the car has had some body work done, which could be a good sign that the car has been well maintained. However, without more details or photos, it's hard to say for sure what kind of bodywork has been done and how extensive it was. The seller also notes that the car is running and driving, and that it's a turnkey vehicle. This suggests that the car is in good running condition and ready to hit the road without any major issues. Under the hood, you'll find a big Block 400 engine, which the seller says runs great. This is definitely a plus, as the engine is the heart of any classic car. However, it's important to note that the seller's description is fairly brief and doesn't provide a lot of details about the overall condition of the car. There's no mention of any potential issues or areas that may need attention, such as the suspension, brakes, or electrical system. Without more information or photos, it's difficult to say for certain whether this Impala is in excellent, good, or fair condition. As with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and get a thorough understanding of its condition before making a decision. That being said, if this 1972 Chevrolet Impala is as described and in solid overall condition, it could be a great opportunity for someone looking to own a piece of American muscle car history. The low mileage and turnkey status are definitely appealing features, as is the big Block 400 engine. 14. We're checking out a 1974 Dodge Dart that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic muscle car for $7,500, which could be a fair price depending on its condition. According to the seller, this Dart has been driven around 100,000 miles, which is not too shabby for a car that's almost 50 years old. It's equipped with a manual transmission, specifically a 5-speed with a Hurst shifter, which is sure to make any car enthusiast grin from ear to ear. The exterior of the car is finished in a sleek black color, and the interior is also black, giving it a classic and timeless look. Under the hood, you'll find a 225 motor that's been upgraded with a Clifford intake and header, as well as a Holley 390 double pumper carb. The seller also mentions that the car has dual exhaust and a Posei rear, which are great features for any muscle car. One of the standout features of this Dart is its cold AC, which is a rare find on a car from this era. The seller also notes that the car is riding on American racing wheels with white letter tires, which only have about 5,000 miles on them. Now, let's talk about the condition of the car. The seller mentions that the car runs and drives well, which is always a good sign. However, they also note that there is some rust present in the floors and trunk. This is definitely something to keep in mind, as rust can be a major issue on classic cars and can be costly to repair. It's important to get a thorough understanding of the extent of the rust and how it may affect the overall condition and value of the car. If you're seriously interested in this Dart, I would recommend reaching out to the seller and asking for more details and photos of the rusty areas. The seller also mentions that they are open to trades, but only for vehicles from 1960-1972. They specifically note that they are not interested in bikes, so keep that in mind if you were thinking of offering up your motorcycle. Overall, this 1974 Dodge Dart seems like it could be a solid choice for someone looking for a classic muscle car with some upgrades and cold AC. The price of $7,500 seems reasonable, especially considering the work that's been done to the engine and the low mileage on the wheels and tires. However, the presence of rust is definitely something to keep in mind and investigate further before making a decision. As with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and get a thorough understanding of its condition before making an offer. 15. We're taking a look at a 1982 Oldsmobile 88 that's currently for sale on Facebook Marketplace. The seller, Arizona Robert, has listed this classic sedan for just $3,600, which could be a steal for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Oldsmobile has been driven 127,000 miles, which is not too bad for a car that's over 40 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a common feature on cars from this era. The exterior of the car is finished in a blue color, and the interior is also blue, which could make for a nice cohesive look. But here's where things get interesting. Under the hood, you'll find a 5.7 V8 diesel engine. That's right, this Oldsmobile is a diesel. According to the seller, the diesel engine is in very good condition, as is the transmission. This is definitely a plus, as diesel engines are known for their durability and longevity. The seller also mentions that the air conditioning is working, which is a great feature to have, especially if you're in a hot climate like Florida. The brakes are also said to be in good condition, and the car is riding on brand new tires, which is always a good sign. In terms of the overall condition, the seller notes that the car runs and drives well, and that there is no significant damage or problems. They also have a clear Florida title in their name, which is important for any vehicle purchase. Now, it's worth noting that while the seller's description is fairly detailed, it doesn't provide any information about the interior condition or any potential cosmetic issues with the exterior. As with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and get a thorough understanding of its condition before making a decision. That being said, based on the information provided, this 1982 Oldsmobile 88 seems like it could be a solid choice for someone looking for a unique classic car with a diesel engine. The price of $3,600 seems very reasonable, especially considering the recent maintenance and upgrades. If you're in the Bradenton, FL area and you're in the market for a classic Oldsmobile, this one might be worth checking out. Just be sure to do your due diligence and get all the information you need before making an offer. 16. We're checking out a 1980 Chevrolet Corvette that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace. The seller has listed this classic sports car for $9,000, which could be a fair price for a Corvette with low mileage and some recent upgrades. According to the seller, this Corvette has only been driven 67,000 original miles, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over 40 years old. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, which was a popular choice for Corvettes from this era. The exterior of the car is finished in a classic white color, while the interior boasts a sleek black color scheme. Under the hood, you'll find a gasoline engine that's been upgraded with an Edelbrock performance kit, which could provide some extra power and performance. The seller mentions that everything on the car works, with the exception of the clock. However, they note that there is a clock in the radio, so you won't be completely without a way to tell time while cruising down the road. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller does mention that the air conditioning needs a charge. This is definitely something to consider, especially if you plan on driving the car in hot weather. However, the seller notes that the car has new tires, which is always a plus. In terms of the overall condition, the seller admits that the car needs a little TLC, but not much. They describe it as a clean Corvette overall, which suggests that it's in good shape for its age. It's worth noting that the seller doesn't provide any details about the car's maintenance history or any potential issues that buyers should be aware of. As with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection and ask for service records before making a decision. That being said, based on the information provided, this 1980 Chevrolet Corvette seems like it could be a solid choice for someone looking for a classic sports car with low mileage and some recent upgrades. The price of $9,000 seems reasonable, especially considering the Edelbrock performance kit and new tires. If you're interested in learning more about this Corvette, be sure to reach out to the seller directly on Facebook Marketplace. They may be able to provide additional details or photos to help you make an informed decision. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller mentions, if adds up, it's available, which suggests that they may be receiving a lot of interest in the car. If you're seriously considering this Corvette, it's probably a good idea to act fast and make an offer before someone else scoops it up. There's 17. Let's talk about this 1965 Ford Thunderbird I found on Facebook Marketplace for $4,500. This classic T-Bird has definitely seen its share of roads with 160,000 miles on the clock. The seller's being upfront about its condition. It's a runner and driver, which is always a good start. But let's be honest here. This car needs some love. While it's sporting a fresh coat of red paint, there's still bodywork and rust repair needed, which is pretty common for these old beauties. The car comes with an automatic transmission, which was typical for these luxury cruisers, and it's got that classic black interior paired with the red exterior. These 65 Thunderbirds were known for their distinctive styling with those sequential taillights and that elegant Landau roof design. At $4,500, you're looking at a project car that could be a great starting point for someone willing to put in the work. It's running and driving, which is huge because you're not starting with a complete basket case. But let's be real. You'll need to budget for those body repairs and rust issues the seller mentioned. These fourth-generation Thunderbirds are becoming increasingly collectible, and while this one isn't in show condition, it could be a rewarding project for the right person. Just make sure you're ready for the commitment of addressing those rust issues. They rarely get better on their own. Remember, always inspect any classic car in person before making a decision. The fact that it's located in Plantation means you can go check it out yourself if you're in the area. 18. Let's check out this 1975 Plymouth Valiant I found on Facebook Marketplace for $5,000. Let me be straight with you. This one's a bit of a mixed bag. The seller's being honest about its condition, and there are some things we need to talk about. With 120,000 miles on the clock, this Valiant's got some stories to tell, and while it runs and drives, it's definitely got some issues that need addressing. Let's start with the good. The car has a clean title and they've done some recent work including a rebuilt carburetor, new fuel pump, and new fuel line. That's positive. The beige on beige color combo is classic 70s all the way. Now here's where we need to be real. The transmission slips when cold. That's a red flag, folks. There's no driver's window. Hello, weather. And it needs tuning and timing work. The seller's right about it needing TLC. That's not just sales talk. These Valiants are actually pretty solid cars when they're running right. They were built like tanks and are known for their reliability, which is probably why this one's still kicking after all these years. The Slant 6 engine, if it has one, is practically bulletproof. At $5,000, you're buying a project that could be a decent daily driver with some work. but don't expect to just hop in and go. You'll need to factor in the cost of fixing that transmission issue, the window, and the timing, tuning work. These are generally simple cars to work on, which is a plus for DIY mechanics. Remember, when they say as is, they mean it. But if you're looking for a classic American sedan that's relatively straightforward to work on and you're not afraid of some initial repairs, this could be an interesting project. Just make sure you budget for those repairs. They're not optional if you want to make this a reliable daily driver. 19. Let's talk about this fascinating 1970 Cadillac DeVille that's popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $6,500. This is actually a pretty interesting find. We're looking at what appears to be a genuine time capsule with only 10,000 miles showing. What makes this car special is its history. It was apparently owned by Original Parts Group and used for mock-ups, then stored in climate-controlled storage for over 20 years. That's the kind of provenance that catches my attention. The brown-on-brown color combo is pure 1970s luxury, and being a 70 DeVille, this is one of those classic land yachts that Detroit was famous for. We're talking about serious presence here. These cars were the epitome of American luxury in their day. Now, let's be honest about what you're getting. While the seller has gotten it running, there are some issues to consider. The dashboard gauges are missing, which is a significant detail. That's not just a cosmetic issue. You'll need to source those gauges, and original Cadillac parts aren't always cheap or easy to find. The good news is that it still has its original paint, interior, and motor. That's huge for collectors who value originality. The climate-controlled storage explains why the car appears to have survived so well. Proper storage makes a massive difference in preserving these classics. At $6,500, considering today's classic car market, this could be a decent deal if, and this is a big if, the car is as solid as described. The missing gauges will need to be addressed, and any car that's sat for 20 years, even in good storage, will need a thorough going through of all systems, rubber components, fluids, seals, etc. This could be a really cool project for someone who wants a piece of American luxury car history. Just make sure to inspect it thoroughly in person and factor in the cost of those missing gauges and any necessary mechanical refreshing. These old caddies can be money pits if you're not careful, but when they're right, there's nothing quite like cruising in a vintage DeVille. 20. Let's check out this 1966 Chevrolet Caprice that's listed on Facebook Marketplace for $12,000 in Phoenix. This is an interesting one. We're looking at a 66 Caprice that's been modified for hydraulics, which tells us right away this car has been part of the lowrider scene. It's sporting a 327 V8 engine paired with the reliable Powerglide automatic transmission, and it's showing 87,000 miles on the odometer. The black-on-black color combo is always classic, and the sellers added new spoke rims and tires, which definitely gives it that period-correct custom look. The car comes with a hydraulic setup. It's got the rack, cylinders, and hoses already installed, though the seller doesn't mention if the system is currently working. Let's be real here. When you're looking at a car that's been cut for hydraulics, you need to know what you're getting into. While many hydraulic installations are done professionally, you'll want to carefully inspect the frame and mounting points. The good news is that it starts and runs, which is always a positive sign. The 327 V8 is a solid engine choice. These motors are known for their reliability and good power output. The Powerglide, while only a 2-speed, is one of the most durable transmissions Chevrolet ever made. At $12,000, you're buying into the lowrider culture as much as you're buying a classic Caprice. These 66 models are desirable because of their clean lines and full-size luxury status. The clean title is definitely a plus, and being in Phoenix means it's likely free of major rust issues. If you're into lowriders or looking to get into the scene, this could be a solid starting point. Just make sure to thoroughly inspect the hydraulic setup and installation, check all the usual mechanical systems, and verify the condition of the frame modifications. And hey, if you're local to Phoenix, the seller's offering delivery, which is a nice bonus. Remember, this isn't your typical stock classic car. It's been modified for a specific purpose, so make sure that aligns with your vision before making the investment.